Good day to you friends and followers, my name is Gray Fox and welcome to the review of the Deepcool Genome PC case. Now this is a pretty interesting case. I bought it mostly because of the aesthetics. As you saw at the beginning of the video, the helix reservoir is very cool and I really like that, and that is kind of what spurred a lot of me wanting to do this case. First I'll talk about what's in the case, and I'll talk about the case itself. The drives are a Western Digital blue 3 terabyte hard drive along with an Intel 5 120 gig SSD. SSD of course just houses the operating system, and then I just threw things like Origin and Steam and all that on there. And then it's got a, this is an Asus Z170 Mark I TUF board. It's 1151 socket. It's using an i7 6700K 4 gig processor. The RAM is G.Skill Ripjaw 8 gig sticks, so nothing too fancy there. I'm actually going to upgrade to 32 gigs when I actually get the money and the time and all that jazz. I meant to buy 32, and then there was actually an error in my cart to begin with, and I actually had to wait on my hard drive and all that, and they only sent me 16 gigs of RAM. So I believe something happened on my end and it didn't add correctly, so it wasn't their fault. Then we have here, this is a sound card. This is the Zonar 7.1 Dolby Digital DX blah blah blah. It's an okay card, but I don't know, it feels kind of like it's a little bit of overkill. It's an unnecessary card, so I could recommend it that it's a good card, but I think it's just too much. The onboard sound on this is quite functional. And then of course this is an EVGA GeForce 980 Ti classified edition. So far I have no problems on the graphics card, all's good. I did do the Battlefield open beta, and I had, I believe, with Bandicam running and everything going on in a sandstorm with like 60 people, I was getting around 105 to 110 FPS. So all was good there. Is there anything else I'm missing here that would be important? Of course, this is a bayless PC case. Oh, this power supply right here is a Rosewell 750 modular. It's more or less the lowest I wanted to run because the 980 Ti requires a 600 watt anyway just to run, and so I wanted to go a little above that. I really probably should have gone with an 850 or higher modular just for that. Now I did put two 120s here. These are, so you can see my finger, these here, these fans in front that are white, they are Deepcool fans as well. They're 120s, and I did that because I wanted that backdrop to that helix. Also up here is the radiator, which is where these 3 fans are mounted up here, and they blow upward, and it creates a really nice cool environment for that. The CPU block here is of course a water pump, and this is all built in. This is an intercooled closed loop system, and so when you buy the case you're gonna get all of that. It's already set up for you, and that's really nice. It's one thing I really wanted to do, is have something very cool on this CPU, and it runs very cool without any help. I was a little concerned about the graphics card getting hot, but this case does stay cool. The mesh and the fans and all running does keep the case nice and cool. I have the side off of it, of course, right now at the moment, just to be able to show you all the reflection everywhere. The one thing I have to say though is everything that's run behind it just feels really tight. I feel like the case could have been a little bit wider in the back, and nothing would have come back to bite you. It would have been really nice, actually. Another thing is this perforated metal right here. This does look cool, and it does all this really neat slanting stuff, but since it's perforated, you can see the wiring behind it. From the angle that the camera is, you can't see a lot of it, thankfully, but there are SATA cables and all that are run back there, some of the power cables, the cables so that you can use the top of the case, paneling, the power button and all that are all run back there, and it just seems like a bad design choice. I almost would have rather this have just gone straight across instead, and maybe come up, or just let it go all the way across. So I'm gonna bring it forward like this, and I think it would have been completely fine. I think it's just a little bit unnecessary. It does have a bit of a cool factor to it, but the perforated metal just doesn't really serve a purpose for the most part. It's just kind of there, so I'm not a big fan there. I did have a little bit of trouble with getting this IO plate back here working, and I think that's a little bit of a design on the board, maybe more so than the case, I'm not sure, but it doesn't fit quite right. I don't know what to attribute that mostly to. I guess maybe 50-50 here. But this is not a bad case, but I think if I had to do over again, I would have gone with a different one, just because of the fact that this does have a very strange setup here, and then down here, if you're wanting to run any cabling up to the bottom of your board, there's very little room to do that with. The wiring is hard to kind of scrunch in there. Your power supply is down here anyway, so all of your modular wiring and if you're not using modular, then all the other wiring is going to be down here. Your cage is under here for your hard drive, so you've got this down here as well. Your SSD mounts on the back of the board, so it's back behind everything where the wiring is. And I don't know, it just feels like the wiring management's really kind of hard to get right with this case. And I saw a lot of reviews that dealt with people who were reviewing it professionally, or they were given the cases and they were giving everything, and I feel like if you're doing it for that purpose, then it's kind of easy to review it and just say, oh, this is really cool, this is really neat, and all that. And that is true. It's a really awesome case. It gets so many comments for just being cool, but it's a very big pain to work with. So if it's the first time you're going to build one, or if you're just looking to get a good water pump system, I really kind of would recommend just going with maybe a more simplistic case, and then just getting a really good cooling system. Now, if you're looking for a closed loop system, though, so that you don't have to worry about managing it, and you're not worried about anything else, you're going to be running, you know, pretty much a really slim system as well, and not a lot of stuff inside, or you have a good modular setup that you can maybe manage better than I did, then, you know, definitely a good choice there. But if you're just starting out, or you don't have a lot of experience with it, or you're not good with cable management, then it's definitely not it, which I'm not good with cable management anyway, so I can speak from that side of it, that I'm just not. And it looks kind of crappy back there, and I do know that, but I feel bad considering this is all, you know, pretty decent stuff, and it's just not managed up to par. But at any rate, I want to just get an idea out there for anybody that was looking at this, because I've only seen reviews that dealt with really high-end building people, or people who are doing it as a tech review. And the everyday gamer, or the everyday, you know, user, I think should know that this is not really a case that I could go out and recommend to other people, other than its cool factor. I think that there are just way better options out there, especially if you're wanting to run bays, because this is a completely bayless PC. So there's no 5 1/4s in here, and you would need to use USBs for everything. And I know most everything now is digital, so it may affect you, it may not affect you. Completely don't know, but if you're wanting to buy discs and you don't have a USB, you will have to pick one up. Good news is they're pretty cheap now, so you're not really spending much more. But if you're on a budget, then this is probably not a good idea for that purpose. Probably better off going with just a standard cheaper case, maybe like a Xeon or something really cheap, and just air cool it. That would be just as acceptable. So that's what I think. Anyway, that's just my opinion on things. That's how I see it. That's how I would rate this. Is just, it's not bad for what it does, but for the money, it's this case runs about $250 off Newegg, and you know, if you're looking to water cooling, that's about how much a cooling system is going to run you anyway. So for that purpose, it's there. But again, if you're just starting out or anything, for the price, you could buy a lower end type case and then just put some good fans in it and spend the remaining money on a good board, a good CPU, and then you could worry about upgrading your graphics card and all that from there on. One thing I will touch on though is the 980 Ti. One reason I like it's because it is SLI capable. So at some point in time, I can just pick up on the 980, shove it in here and work with it. But there is one thing about this case that you will have to check if you do go to a different case, is the length of your video card and spacing. This one does have adequate room for this card, and this does allow for vertical mounting, so you can set the video card up in there as well, and it'll be fine doing that. But I didn't like the way it looked. I didn't like it that close to the case wall, so the window is just like right against it, and I didn't really care for that. So I decided just to mount it normally. I think it functions just fine like that, and it's going to hide stuff behind it, so I think it's more of a design choice, so you don't see a lot of wiring that you may have to run right there. But I don't like that as much. I'd rather be doing it this way, and so I think this is just a nice, normal, clean, classic look. At any rate, that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thanks for checking it out. Hopefully you find it interesting, and maybe it'll help you in your decision making. If you have any questions about it at all, please be sure to let me know. Feel free to. I wouldn't mind answering any questions you might have about the case if you'd like to know anything about it. The front here, I will say that the front here is plastic. The rest of the case, well, the upper part's plastic as well. Up here, you can't really see this, but it's above the radiator, and this is where that grill is that's going to blow that air up. And the front here is plastic. If you want to mount these front fans, you will have to pop this front plate off, which is an absolute pain to do. And since it is plastic, it does have those little plastic pins which you can bend easily. So do be careful if you do that. That was kind of a pain to do, I have to admit. I would have liked to have seen some kind of metal, just a couple of thumb screws or pins or something that made this a little bit easier to remove and use and to put to use, because people aren't going to be removing that all the time anyway, so you just need it during your build phase, and after that you're good. Well, thank you guys so much for checking out the video. I'm going to stop rambling now, and if you guys have any questions, like I said, feel free to let me know, and I will see everybody in the next video. Gray Fox out.